Welcome to the School of the Lost Tribes. And it happened, after that Alexander son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetium, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. The opening verse of 1 Maccabees sets the historical stage for the events that follow by referencing Alexander the Great's conquest of the Persian Empire. It succinctly describes how Alexander, son of Philip of Macedon, emerged from the western lands, referred to as Chetium, and defeated Darius, the king of Persia and Media. This victory marked a pivotal moment in ancient history, as Alexander subsequently assumed control over Darius's vast empire and became the first Macedonian ruler to reign over Greece. This brief introduction serves to contextualize the Maccabean narrative within the broader framework of Hellenistic influence that followed Alexander's conquests, which would significantly impact Judean culture and politics in the centuries to come. Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian. This refers to Alexander the Great, son of Philip II of Macedon. He is introduced not simply as a historical figure, but as the origin of a major geopolitical and cultural shift in the ancient world. This change would have significant implications for the Israelites, whose traditions and laws would come under pressure from the Hellenistic influence, who came out of the land of Chittim. Chittim is a term that the Hebrews used to describe the western coastal lands and islands, particularly Cyprus and parts of the Greek world. The association here is important because it emphasizes that the conqueror was not of the eastern powers like Babylon or Persia, but of the West, a new and foreign power from the Israelite perspective. The term Chittim, also rendered as Kittim in biblical texts, is commonly associated with the island of Cyprus. This identification is supported by historical sources, including the Judean historian Josephus, who connected Chittim to the ancient Cypriot city of Kition, modern-day Larnaca. In Scripture, references to Chittim often symbolize maritime powers or far western territories. Over time, the scope of this term broadened to include parts of Greece and Macedonia, reflecting the westward expansion of foreign dominion that would eventually confront and oppress the scattered Israelites. Had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes. This marks the historical event where Alexander defeated Darius III, leading to the fall of the Persian Empire. This defeat is more than just a military victory. It represents a change in the world order that would directly affect the Israelites as they transitioned from Persian rule, which had allowed certain religious freedoms, to Hellenistic rule, which sought to assimilate cultures under Greek ways. Darius, king of the Persians, ruled over one of the greatest empires of the ancient world, the Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire. This vast dominion extended from the Indus Valley in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west, encompassing many nations and peoples. The heartland of this empire corresponds to what is now known as modern-day Iran. Notably, the Persian Empire is recognized as one of the oldest continuous civilizations, with its people maintaining a distinct identity and culture for thousands of years. When Alexander the Macedonian conquered Darius, it marked a dramatic shift in power from the long-standing Eastern Empire to the rising influence of the West, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Alexander's ascension is noted as being the first over Greece in a unified way after his conquests. For the Israelites, this began a period where Greek customs, language, and religion began to dominate, eventually culminating in the severe persecution under Antiochus IV Epiphanes, described later in this book. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. This verse from 1 Maccabees continues to describe the military exploits of Alexander the Great, emphasizing the scope and impact of his conquests. It portrays Alexander as a formidable warrior king who engaged in numerous conflicts across the known world. The text highlights his success in capturing many fortified positions, likely referring to cities, strongholds, and strategic locations that fell to his armies. The phrase, "slew the kings of the earth," is a powerful, albeit hyperbolic way of conveying Alexander's dominance over other rulers of his time. It suggests that he defeated and potentially killed many local kings and leaders as he expanded his empire. This vivid description serves to underscore the far-reaching changes brought about by Alexander's campaigns, setting the stage for the Hellenistic era that would profoundly influence the cultural and political landscape of the ancient world, including the Judean territories that are the focus of the Book of Maccabees, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. This verse continues the account of Alexander the Great's conquests, emphasizing the vast extent of his campaigns and their impact. The phrase, "went through to the ends of the earth," is a poetic expression indicating that Alexander's military expeditions reached the farthest known regions of the world at that time. It highlights the unprecedented scale of his empire. The text notes that he took spoils of many nations, referring to the wealth and resources he acquired from conquered territories. The statement that the earth was quiet before him suggests that his dominance was so complete that resistance ceased, and a form of peace was established under his rule. The final part, "he was exalted and his heart was lifted up," indicates that these successes led to Alexander's increased pride and sense of self-importance. This verse sets the stage for understanding the extent of Hellenistic influence that would impact the Judeans and other peoples in the region, providing context for the events that unfold later in the book. "And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him." Alexander the Great's rise to power and the consolidation of his empire. It describes how Alexander amassed a formidable military force, referred to as a mighty strong host. With this powerful army, he established control over a vast territory, encompassing numerous countries and nations. The text emphasizes that even kings became subject to Alexander, paying tribute to him. This indicates the shift in power dynamics across the ancient world, with formerly independent rulers now subordinate to Alexander's authority. The use of the term tributaries suggests a system where conquered regions and their leaders were required to pay taxes or offer other forms of submission to maintain Alexander's favor and avoid further conflict. This verse underscores the immense political and military changes brought about by Alexander's conquests, which would have far-reaching consequences for the Judeans and other peoples in the regions he dominated. "And after these things, he fell sick, and perceived that he should die." This verse marks a significant turning point in the narrative of Alexander the Great's conquests. After detailing his extensive military campaigns and the establishment of his vast empire, the text abruptly shifts to Alexander's mortality. It succinctly states that Alexander fell ill and became aware of his impending death. This brief mention serves multiple purposes in the context of 1 Maccabees. Firstly, it humanizes the seemingly invincible conqueror, reminding readers of the transient nature of earthly power. Secondly, it sets the stage for the political upheaval that would follow Alexander's death, as his empire would be divided among his generals. This transition is crucial for understanding the subsequent events in the book, particularly how the Hellenistic kingdoms that emerged from Alexander's empire would impact the Judeans and the surrounding regions. The sudden shift from Alexander's great achievements to his illness and mortality creates a dramatic contrast, emphasizing the fleeting nature of worldly success and power. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. Alexander the Great's actions as he faced his imminent death. Recognizing the gravity of his condition, Alexander summoned his most trusted advisors and companions. These were individuals of high standing who had been with him since his youth, likely including his generals and close friends. In a significant move, Alexander divided his vast empire among these trusted individuals while he was still living. This action was highly unusual and had far-reaching consequences. By partitioning his kingdom before his death, Alexander sought to ensure a smooth transition of power and perhaps prevent conflict among his successors. However, This decision ultimately led to the fragmentation of his empire into several Hellenistic kingdoms, each ruled by one of his generals or their descendants. This verse sets the stage for the political landscape that would emerge after Alexander's death, a landscape that would significantly impact the Judeans and other peoples in the region, as detailed in the subsequent narrative of 1 Maccabees. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died, and his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. It states that Alexander ruled for a period of 12 years before his death. This brief statement serves as a punctuation mark to the narrative of Alexander's conquests and achievements described in the preceding verses. The brevity of this verse is striking, especially when contrasted with the extensive descriptions of his military campaigns and the vast empire he built. It underscores the fleeting nature of even the most impressive human accomplishments and the inevitability of mortality. For the audience of 1 Maccabees, particularly the Judeans, this verse marks the end of an era and the beginning of a new political reality. Alexander's death would lead to the division of his empire among his generals, resulting in the Hellenistic kingdoms that would play crucial roles in the events narrated throughout the rest of the book. This succinct verse thus serves as a pivotal transition point in the historical narrative. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Alexander's generals, after his passing, crowned themselves as kings in their respective territories. This act symbolizes their assumption of full sovereign power, no longer ruling merely as appointees of Alexander, but as independent monarchs. The text also notes that this pattern continued with their descendants for many years, establishing new dynastic lines. The latter part of the verse, "and evils were multiplied in the earth," suggests that this period of divided rule led to increased conflicts, power struggles, and suffering for the people under these new kingdoms. For the Judeans, this likely refers to the turmoil and challenges they faced under changing Hellenistic rulers.